In a city where loyalty is nothing more than a mask and love can be weaponized, one recording shatters everything. A single voice, calm, emotionless, merciless, rips away the illusion of safety and exposes a betrayal so cold it rewrites every truth. When trust dies, rage takes its place, and the line between victim and monster begins to blur. What happens when the person you love is the architect of your destruction? Dani no longer felt her own breath. All surrounding sounds turned distorted, as if the world had suddenly been submerged in some cold, viscous liquid. The recording echoed inside her skull like a dull blade scraping against bone. Joey's voice, smooth and detached, revealing a brutal truth. He had been the one pulling the strings, pushing Randy into the accident that cost Hayley her unborn child. Every word in that recording was a hammer blow, shattering the fragile structure of trust she had so carefully built. The anger didn't come as a burst of fire. It crawled in like lava, slow and destructive, burning everything it touched. Her heart clenched and went numb. Joey's face flashed through her memory, the reassuring arms, the quiet evenings, the illusion that he had been her safe place. But all of it was a carefully staged act, a theater of lies concealing a filthy conspiracy. Joey wasn't a victim. He wasn't the loving partner she once thought he was. He was the puppeteer, calculating every move, pushing Randy into a corner of a game where Joey always held the upper hand. And Hayley, the one who lost everything that night, was nothing but a crushed pawn. What broke Dani most wasn't just the act itself, but the realization that she had been part of the same game without ever being allowed to know the rules. Fragments of memory came rushing back, details she had ignored or explained away. Joey's unexplained disappearances. The evasive looks whenever Randy's name came up. The perfect coincidences. She had once convinced herself these were harmless. But the truth left no room for excuses. Joey had orchestrated the night that destroyed everything. Joey had ripped the ground out from under her feet and smiled while doing it. Inside her mind, a dark void opened. Fury. Pain. Shame. Confusion. Each emotion spiraled and collided, pressing against her lungs until it hurt to breathe. Trust no longer existed. The lines between reality and deceit blurred. Was there ever a moment that was real? Or had her entire relationship with Joey been an elaborate stage play, every smile rehearsed, every touch a setup? The betrayal wasn't new. It clawed into old wounds she thought had healed long ago, the day her father betrayed her mother, the day her family shattered. She had sworn never to be a pawn again. And yet, here she stood, bleeding from the same kind of blade. Rain whispered outside the window, muffling the world in a suffocating silence. Dani didn't scream. She didn't cry. The pain had passed beyond sound and become something else, a cold, surgical kind of clarity. All that remained inside her was the need to make someone pay. But how? Joey wasn't just a traitor. He was protected. He had connections, leverage, shadows behind him. He had erased his fingerprints from everything. Hayley's tragedy had been dismissed as a tragic accident. Randy carried the blame. Joey remained untouched. And Dani, the loyal girlfriend, was invisible. No one would believe her if she spoke. Her rage deepened into something sharper. Joey had calculated every angle. But had he ever considered what would happen if she stopped being the girl he thought he controlled? When trust is dead, survival becomes instinct. Slowly, Dani began reconstructing the timeline in her head, examining every name, every place, every overlooked thread. She remembered the night he came home drenched, eyes bloodshot, after the accident. She remembered the silence, not grief. Not fear. Silence like a man who had already won. At the time, she thought he was just shaken. Now she saw the truth, that was the look of someone who had set a trap and watched it close perfectly. Why did Joey do it? Was it power? Revenge? Or was there something bigger buried underneath it all? If he could sacrifice Hayley, an innocent, what would stop him from sacrificing her too? That thought clawed into her chest. She was no longer just a betrayed lover. She was a liability. From that moment, everything shifted. This was no longer just pain. It was war. A silent war, dangerous and without mercy. If she showed emotion, she would lose. Joey excelled at manipulation. He would twist everything, make her look delusional. But if she stayed silent, waited, became something he didn't see coming, she could strike. She thought of everyone around them. Who else had stood with him? Was Randy truly a puppet, or did he hold a piece of the truth too? Why had Hayley's accident happened at such a precise moment, in such a precise place, when Randy just happened to be there? Too many coincidences meant no coincidence at all. Someone had set the whole thing in motion. Joey might have been only one link in a larger chain. Questions cut into her like razors, forcing her mind into focus. Danny peeled back the layers in her memory. The man Joey met behind the country club. His guarded reaction whenever Hayley's name came up. His silence when Randy took the fall. Joey wasn't just a trigger. He was a hand in something larger. Power. Control. Blood. The pattern started to form, faint but real. Inside her, two forces clashed violently. One screamed for her to expose him, to burn everything down. The other, colder, sharper, knew better. Joey had prepared for exposure. If she rushed in, she would be the one erased. Justice wouldn't stand on her side. Justice rarely does. She had to become someone else. Not Danny the believer. Danny the shadow. Someone who could strike without warning. Joey wouldn't see it coming. He had built a cage for a girl who no longer existed. But the questions lingered like smoke. Why had he truly done it? Was the child the target, or just collateral? Who exactly was Hayley to him? And Danny, was she ever loved, or just another piece waiting to be sacrificed? The darkness thickened around the room. Rain kept falling, steady, relentless, like a clock counting down. There were no tears left in Danny's eyes. Only the ruthless resolve of someone who had stepped beyond despair. There was no turning back. Trust was dead. Betrayal had carved its place into her bones. And the game had only just begun. Across the city, Joey was likely unaware. He believed Danny would break, sink into grief, become silent and small. He didn't know that in betraying her, he had created something else entirely. He had created an enemy. As the final pieces fall into place, the truth behind the blood-soaked maze of Uptown is no longer just a story, it's a warning. What seemed like a web of isolated secrets has now unraveled into something far darker and far more orchestrated. Every betrayal, every whispered conversation, every disappearance wasn't a coincidence. It was a calculated design, carefully laid out to break them from the inside. Nicole's tears in the hallway, Leslie's explosive rage, Naomi's icy silence, and Tomas's fragile trust, they were never random moments. They were pressure points, exploited and twisted until the foundations of their world began to crack. And when the storm finally hit, it didn't come like a thunderclap. It crawled in quietly, like smoke under a door. One by one, the players began to realize that the real enemy was never just a single person, it was the house itself, the place that had fed on their fears and multiplied their sins. The gate wasn't just a symbol. It was a threshold. A border between what they believed to be real and what had been patiently waiting in the shadows, hungering to be set free. The chilling part is that no one escaped untouched. Randy's frantic search for redemption led him back to the same room where everything began. Kat's cold calculations crumbled when she realized the very plan she thought she controlled was written long before she ever arrived. Even Eva, the one who seemed to hold the answers, found herself face to face with a reflection she didn't recognize, a version of herself she could no longer deny. And then there was Hayley. The quiet observer. The one no one suspected. Until she smiled. Because sometimes, evil doesn't announce itself with a scream. It slips in with a familiar face, a soft voice, and the promise of safety. That's why the ending hits like a dagger. No matter who survives, the seed has already been planted. Uptown will keep its secrets, feeding on those who dare to step beyond the gate. And the question that lingers like a knife in the dark is this: was this ever a story of escape, or was it always a story of becoming? The credits may roll, but the silence after is deafening. Somewhere, another door creaks open. Another light flickers out. And for those who've seen too much, there's no going back. Beyond the gates is only the beginning. And one day, when he realized it, it would be far too late.